Greetings and welcome back to another episode of the Shitty Run, and today we're playing as Blue Baby. Why did I call this run shitty? Not because it's bad, but because we start out with a very nice assortment of shitty items. Literally, number 1, number 2, butt bombs, and of course flush. And I'm not really sure, this is obviously a special curated daily where we start out with a special set of items and we're challenged to complete the game. And how we do it is obviously up to us, but in this case we don't have any treasure rooms or shops, which means we were kind of forced to use these items to get by. And these items are okay on their own, but obviously they're not stellar. And the fact we don't have shops and treasure rooms does make things a bit samey. Before I go on, you can see that there's a special rock here, and the first time I placed the bomb down, it just cracked it, and then the second time I placed the bomb down, we actually destroyed it and got 2 spirit hearts instead of 1. And when I look back at the clip, it seems to have been marked, and it did have a little X in the top right corner, and it wasn't tinted in any way like usual tinted rocks are. So this makes me think that this is like a super special marked or tinted rock. Which is odd, you know, like, I understand the concept, I really like it, but the fact that I haven't seen this before, and I do watch quite a lot of Isaac videos, and I do browse the Reddit, and the fact that I haven't seen this before makes me think that either no one has found it, or no one has thought it was so important to have pointed it out. And I'm not really sure, like, maybe this has existed in Afterbirth, and I just never noticed it because I'm blind. But it's a very novel concept. I really enjoy the fact that these little interaction secrets exist, and it does make a lot of sense, because if you have secret rocks, secret rooms, you have super secret rooms as well, and it makes sense to have super tinted rocks, and the fact that they cost 2 bombs means that they are much obviously rarer. I believe they are rarer, and they give you better rewards. In this case, we got 2 spirit hearts instead of just 1. So that was interesting to see, and I'm not really sure if anyone has seen this before. Please let me know. Maybe they have better rewards than I just got. Maybe this was on the very low spectrum of rewards. But obviously, seeing 2 spirit hearts, I think that's quite a good trade. But yeah, it's just something that surprised me. I'm probably getting a bit too much excited here for my own good. It's just a tinted rock, a super tinted rock. But I really like this little novel concept that exists in Isaac. And those little additions that you don't really expect, but they make the game just a bit more flavorful. And I really like it, the fact that they even bother putting these little details into the game, which aren't really details, I guess, when you actually think about it, but these little additions. Obviously, we all buy the DLC for the new items, for the new bosses, but when you get like those little bonuses in there, it just makes the experience feel a bit more wholesome and just a bit more complete. When you actually get back to the daily run, you can see that we're doing actually quite well. We have a nice assortment of items. Obviously, Maw of the Moit and Pentagram are the items which are carrying us at the moment, but even the rest of the items, the ones that we started out with, are quite good. Number 1 is obviously good because it increases your tear rate, your DPS goes through the roof. You do lose a lot of range, but that's usually dealt with just because you have speed, and then you can actually offset that speed by moving fast, and then the velocity of the shots increases based on your own velocity, which means that they have increased range in some sense. And a hidden gem here is definitely number 2, and a lot of people don't really like number 2, so I would like to take a minute or two to tell you why number 2 is, I think, a solid item. I won't say it's a good item because it can get up, or it did end up getting me hit a few times, a bit too many times for my liking, but it's a very usable item, and obviously its greatest benefit is that you get free butt bombs, and butt bombs are great, because butt bombs, obviously, they'll damage to every enemy in the room, they daze and stun enemies, which means if they are charging enemies, they will just stop doing it. And the best part is they're free. You don't need anything, you don't use a bomb to actually place them down. The only thing you need to do when you have this item is just constantly shoot for 3 seconds, and after 3 seconds the bomb will drop. And if you actually continue shooting past that point, bombs won't drop anymore, which means that you can kind of sustain fire. You only have to worry about 1 bomb, and then you can just keep shooting without worrying that another bomb will spawn. So in that case, they're actually very manageable. If you really don't want any bombs, what you could do is just shoot for 2 seconds or less, and then stop, and then restart shooting again. The most important part is that you don't just shoot for a constant period of time, and a lot of people don't actually know this. They don't know that the bombs spawn on a set interval when you actually shoot for 3 seconds. A lot of people think it's random, and if it was random, I would agree. The item would be super bad, because having random butt bombs spawn at your feet is just a recipe for disaster. But because you can control it, and because it's always set the same amount of time, like Maw of the Void for example, you have to charge them up, and because you're charging them up, you can obviously let that charge go, and you can also control it a bit better. So in that sense, they're actually much more useful because you can then place bombs at your will whenever you want to. And when you do that, you can obviously destroy tinted rocks, you can find entrances to secrets and super secret rooms, and you can also control it to use on bosses. And what I like doing is you set a bomb down at your feet, you walk back and then you shoot at it, and then you actually kill an enemy that way, or just at least attempt to hit them. I would recommend, what I would recommend is, even though they're free, don't waste too much time trying to fight the secret rooms and second secret rooms with it. It's usually much better to just use your regular bombs. Not usually, but I would say if you don't have enough time, it's much better to use your regular bombs. Because, for example, if you have 3 rooms to check or 3 walls to check in a room, you have to go to the first wall, you have to shoot for 3 seconds, a bomb drops. You have to go to the next wall, you have to keep shooting again for 3 seconds, and another bomb drops. And overall, it just takes 10 seconds to check 3 walls, which is obviously a very inefficient use of your time, when you could have just pressed Shift or E or whatever your button is to drop a bomb, and the bomb would have dropped instantly, and then you would know if that was a secret room in less than half a second. So for that reason, you kind of need to be careful how you use them, because even though they're very powerful and they are free bombs, which does allow you to get just a bunch of points, you still have to be careful, at least in terms of time. It's quite tedious to use, it can be quite tedious to use, but the fact that you have them shouldn't go unnoticed. And even though you probably don't really want to waste your time placing those bombs down to find walls and secret rooms, it's still a good idea, at least in daily runs, if you're going or gunning for a high score. Besides that, we actually had a very standard, besides these few items, the only reason we actually got this far was due to the devil deals. And this is something that I've pointed out before, and whenever you don't have treasure rooms or shops, you really rely on your devil deals to get by. And that's even true in regular runs where you do have both of those rooms actually available to you. Devil deals are such an integral part of the game, they are what makes your run work. And I'm not saying that this run would be impossible with just butt bombs and your regular tiers that you got, but it makes it so much easier, the fact that we just get Maw of the Void essentially won us this run, and the fact, at this point obviously we have chocolate milk and the rest, but we had to get to this point, and it's quite a difficult tell or like to imagine, because you always think that you can get by, but as soon as you get maybe to the 3rd floor, you realize just how weak you are. And the fact that they strip away the treasure rooms and the shops from you in these challenges, it does make sense in some cases, because what you get done, you could just get Tech X, maybe, or Brimstone, and then the whole point of the challenge is invalidated. But at the same time, obviously, the fact that you don't have those makes this game just a bit more less interesting. Not interesting, but less dynamic, because obviously the greatest fun about this game is building up your character, getting stronger over time, finding crazy synergies, and when those options are shrink down for you, it makes for a very samey daily, and you're kind of stuck doing the same thing over and over again. And obviously this was the case here, and there really wasn't much to it. We got basically 3 items in total, which affected the run at any point. And we went to the Dark Room instead of Mom, because it's a better use of your points to actually take the Sacrifice Room and then go to the Dark Room instead of fighting Mom and Boss Rush. And we finished in a very comfortable spot, so it was, like I said, a very standard daily. There wasn't much thought behind it at all, no decisions to make, just get through, try to play the best we can, and then of course rank pretty well. So if you kind of follow this recipe on any run that is a challenge run, or at least a special run, you're bound to get a pretty good score. And because of that reason, maybe special dailies aren't as fun, at least not this one, because it was the item selection wasn't good. But I'm still sure that there are better curated dailies that will impact us more, that will actually be challenging, that will actually pose a fun objective for us to complete, and I can't wait to see those. But for the time being, I hope you enjoyed this one, and I hope to see you next time.